Yeah, these are polarizing boots. They either get are you going skiing?
Definite thumbs up. But
No, all my friends are at Sundance, and I've got to.
you're just living.
I'm just living that sort of micro dream in the footwear. Yeah.
Cool.
I did take them to Lapland last year though, which was a pretty magical experience.
Wow.
Yeah, but you didn't go to Sundance.
I didn't go to Sundance, but maybe I should. Maybe I should take the boots.
Maybe you should. Have you been? Have you been to Sundance?
Twice, yes. Yeah, with the last couple of films, yeah.
What's your experience of Sundance? Do you love it?
I've actually not been 3 times. I love it. It's if you're a filmmaker and you got a film and you have and the movie is done but you haven't sold it, it's kind of stressful because you're like, how is it going to be received? Is anyone going to want it? So that's sort of it. And then I went with a documentary that we made a couple of years back called The Deepest Breath, and that was already sold, and that was a very relaxing, it was just there for the enjoyment. But look, it's awesome. I did the Sundance Labs as a writer and director, and that was transformative, one of the best.
So interesting. Neil DaCosta, who we had on last week, the week
before. We were there together.
Oh,
we're very, very good mates. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
lovely,
good.
yeah.
And releasing a similar time as with the Bone Temple.
And actually we both were, so my editor on this and her editor on Header is someone that we both met at the labs, Jakob Schulsinger. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
So we had it's like the most incredible sort of summer camp for budding filmmakers. I mean, Nia was like 25 or something ridiculous. Wow. Yeah.
We should get on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things I would say, to be, and often when people have just written a screenplay or directed a short, I was like, just send it. Because the worst that will happen is they'll say, not this time. But if you do get to go, like I never went to film school. The only film school I had was basically 4 weeks up at Redford's place. Wow. And you get to bring actors and you workshop. And I remember Robert Redford saying to us, the best thing you can do here is fuck it up, is fail. Because there's no one is ever going to see it. You never need to share it with anyone. And if you make a big mistake, then you'll learn an awful lot. But yet there's like 6 of us and we're all like trying to do the best, little scene every week. Yeah. So it was wild.
What did you learn at Sundance Labs, just before we get onto this incredible movie, because it is an incredible movie? But I mean, so many people want to get onto a good lab. They're trying to develop a screenplay. They've written something that's pretty good, but like maybe they're missing that industry connection or the feedback. I mean, what is the sort of feedback process? What did you learn to do and not to do through that?
It's tricky. I think different people get different things. I went to Sundance first time with The Imposter, and the woman who runs the labs, ran it with Redford, saw it and was like, have you ever thought about doing like a drama? And I was like, well, it's a dream, and she was like, all right, well, you should come. And when I got there, I felt like I'd taken someone's place on the course.
An imposter.
Yes, because I didn't have a script. I didn't have a script. Everyone else was on their seventh draft of the script. I just had a story which became American Animal. And because I felt so guilty, I felt like I better go and write the script so I can at least say it wasn't a wasted opportunity. So without that, I probably never would have sat down to write the script. I never would have thought of myself as a screenwriter. And then when I sent them the script, they're like, come back and do the directing lab. And that's when Nia and I met and became very close mates. And what you get to do is, like, I'd never worked with actors before. And you get a whole bunch of, like, we had Ed Harris was our like acting coach,
What?
You got like...
Just old Ed.
Yeah. Khaled Deschanel, legendary cinematographer, was the cinematography coach. You got different directors coming in. I had like James Mangold, who is like a bull in a china shop. So I was like, okay, well, that's a whole other... He'd just come in and go, you're doing this all wrong.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay. And I actually built, in the end, I built a closed set so none of the advisors could get in, so I could just work with the actors, because I felt like the advisors were making me too
self-conscious.
Yeah. So, but, like Redford said, you get to play and mess it up, and then you learn everything by doing that, you know. So that was the only film school I ever had, really. Yeah,
that's so cool. And interesting, you did work with some actors on The Imposter, because I'm friends with Anna Rubin.
Oh, no way.
Yes, he was obviously in The Imposter.
God,
we made a proof of concept together for Boudica, which she's still doing. But she's still doing really well.
Is she? Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great actress. But yeah, so, and then from there, obviously it's so interesting to then develop and work and then do American Animals, which is obviously now it's another hybrid, the documentary going into film, and then Crime 101, which is now just full on. By the way, we love this movie. Have to say,
cool.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much.
Transitions were some of the best I've ever seen.
Yes. Well, coming from you lads,
Crime 101 wonderful.
I
was saving that for a while, sorry.
Wow, that's great. No, well, that honestly, boys, that means a huge amount, because a lot of attention went into the details.
Yeah. I mean, when I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, there's elements of like a vulnerable protagonist. I was like, okay, there could be a little flavor of Drive.
Yep.
The sound and the punchy editing, like Heat. That was your thought as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We've got all these like amazing, it felt like a sort of a return back to the kind of smart action thrillers that are missing now in the market.
Yeah, that was
like completely missing.
Yeah. The Doug Liman-esque thrillers going back into the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
It had that element to it.
I'm so happy to hear you guys say. I mean, it was a journalist yesterday who's said, "Hey, thanks for bringing this back," and that was so nice to hear, because I do think I felt like if it was going to ever make or get to make a big movie, it would be like one of those ones that we grew up with, like the ones you've mentioned that we loved, you know, and like you said, I don't know why. Maybe they go onto Netflix or something. I don't know quite why we're not getting them in the cinema.
Yeah.
But I felt like that, you know, that was the plan. Try and do something that was smart, that treated the audience with real respect, that the characters aren't like
placeholders.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's lots of elements to it. There is a very well-defined character piece with interesting motivations, flawed people. And then on top of that, you've kind of got this very filmmaker language when we talked about the transitions, the editing, like the shots, super, super, super cinematic. And the sound design as well is like really like hits you in the sort of the big screen sort of experience.
Right.
Let's talk about just the creative conception of this, making this tone, because it is very specific tonally, and finding that balance between popcorn thriller and smart, but like not too smart, not taking itself too seriously. Like it's all walking along a tightrope, isn't it?
Yeah. I felt quite out of my depth. I'll be honest. Like I was like, oh wow, because I wrote it, and when you're writing, you're not thinking, well, someone might make me direct this, and you're not like, oh, well, okay,
held at gunpoint.
Yeah, exactly. And so you just write, and you obviously I think it helps, because obviously I'm thinking about those transitions. I'm thinking about the handoff, and with this, you've got 3 mini movies, and they're all on a collision course, and you don't know how. And I felt like I didn't want every time you transition from one character to the other, a sense that, oh, like I was kind of having fun in that movie, and now you've jolted me. So those transitions were very much designed so that you feel like, this is sort of a simultaneity, you know, of time. Like while Mark's character is doing this is where Halle is, and this is where Chris is. And so those transitions were very carefully planned. Some of them were easy to do, and some of them were a bit outrageous. Like the passing on the freeway.
Yeah, that must have been so difficult.
Yeah, there was a point where I was like, this was a fucking great idea on paper, but what the hell is it?
It's easy to write.
And
you can't pass.
We shut down a whole section of the freeway.
Wow.
And you've got 80 precision cars. You've got an actor in one car on a process trailer.
80?
You've got the 2 guys at the beginning, the Iranian guys. They're really driving, so they have to actually hit the speed. It's not a precision driver doing that. You've got Chris Hemsworth in the car behind. Fortunately, he's like an impeccable driver. So there were times when I was like, this was a really good idea, but you're burning time and money. But then 4th take, you're like, wow, there it is. Done. Let's go.
4th take.
Wow.
I mean, that's outrageous to take 15 sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, you know, there are certain things. You know, that in American Animals, there's a big one, which is like their kind of Ocean's 11. that was 16 takes.
Okay.
And exhaustion. But, though my reaction to that sense of insecurity and feeling out of my depth was to just do a ludicrous amount of homework. And if you do that and it's sort of driven by fear, you do that amount of prep and I'll storyboard everything. Then I'll bring my cinematographer in and we'll storyboard it again. And then what happens, I think, is because you've done that level of, it's almost like a rehearsal of directing the movie on paper.
Mental rehearsal. Right?
You can then relax kind of weirdly on the day. You've got such a good plan that you're not like, oh, I've got to do this coverage and I've got to make the day. You've kind of, I guess you've done enough of a kind of roadmap that if one of the actors shows up and goes, I was thinking I'll do this instead and it's better than your idea, you can go, yes, great, let's do that. But if you're showing up and you've got half a plan and in the back of your mind, you're just already under pressure before you start doing anything, that's not a great creative space. And it's also the actors can feel that vibration a little bit of you being like, ugh. So I, for me, not everyone's like this. I mean, I remember Herzog saying something like, storyboards is the tool of the coward or something.
Something ridiculous.
He didn't have 80 cars on this.
No, he didn't have cars.
I see why to do that one, yeah.
Exactly. On
So
that
whereas the Coen brothers, I think, storyboard, so like you do the thing that's right for you.
Yeah.
And if you're like me and you're anxious and, when you're a director, you kind of have to hide that.
Yeah.
Just do the prep and you've got a plan. And
he's so good. I love that. And fear does drive us as filmmakers because if it was easy, you'd just be like, oh, okay, this is just another shot.
Yeah.
This is just another thing. But the fear makes us jump into it more, even though it scares us. It makes us go, I do want to tackle this and I might get it wrong, but as long as I'm prepared and I've sat like you have with your DP and you've sat with your team.
Yeah.
And then on the day you can play, that makes you the creative filmmaker for your brain to go, oh, let's try something else. And I love what you said about if you're not prepared. Has that ever happened in the past where you'd learned from that? So you've done so much TV and stuff as well.
Not really. I think probably, there were things I'd done in TV that I just didn't have enough experience. And yet I was trying to run before I could walk. And I didn't like that feeling of feeling like, oh, there's that sort of like the ground is disappearing from under you. And I was like, okay, let's not do that again. So I think the fear is good because it makes you do the homework. And, those actors like Ruffalo, even his body of work and how incredible an actor is, he does this crazy amount of prep and worrying.
Yeah.
Because he's fearful, like all of us, that he's just going to fall on his face.
Yes.
So yeah, I think everyone has their own process. Nia she's fearless.
Yes. Yeah.
She and I admire that, and it's just a different approach.
What tools do you use if you are getting into that moment? Because you mentioned when things aren't going necessarily to plan. Maybe you have got a big plan in the background, but maybe you're tired. Maybe things have gone horribly wrong. And in your mind, it's like it's going to be very difficult to make this scene the way that you imagined it's going to be. And you're going to sort of hold that edge and trying to find a solution that maybe you're going to have to do a reshoot, or maybe you'll have to take some time out. Like, what do you do when, it's hitting the fan, so to speak?
Again, I do a sort of like script analysis, but, before I work with a guy called Ian Seller, who was the leader of the directing course at the NFTS. And the reason for that is I was at like a dinner of British filmmakers and again felt like the imposter. And all of them were like, oh, when we were at the film school, do you remember that amazing guy? And I wrote his name down and then I emailed him. And I was like, before I did American Animals, I was like, look, I'm a doc guy, but I'm about to do. And he is this beautiful, incredible Scottish man, former filmmaker, teacher. And we will go through the scene and go like, what is this about? He has this mantra. It's like, what the fuck is it about? And if you can't put it in a sentence, you might have a problem. When you put it in a sentence, it's the scene where she decides to shame him or whatever it is, right? Then you know when it's all going a bit like, I'm like, what's that central little thing that I actually need to capture in this scene? And maybe there's a way where we can be more economical to get to that. Maybe I don't need the coverage I thought I needed.
So like character motivation or story progression kind of, at least something
like
that important.
You know, like, you know, look, there are no rules to any of this, but a lot of people would say, you know, there has to be change in a scene. Otherwise, what's it doing? It's not always the way, but then if you know what that change is, which is, you know, the wool falls from our eyes or whatever,
yes,
that's the thing you want to capture. So then you can be like, maybe I don't need that shot of like the ashtray or the this, that, and the other. Maybe it's just about this. So you sort of laser in a little bit more on the thing. I mean, you know, we definitely had days where it was 2 days work to do in one day. And you probably end up having to forego some of the useful design you had in order to just get the story. But then also it can force you to do like, come up with a really clever one shot instead of 4. Which I did quite a lot, and that's a real buzz.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It does sort of put you in that place of going, I now have to think of something creative and interesting to get the shot, so it's not just boring.
Yeah.
What was so fascinating about the film as well is the performances. They were felt controlled and beautiful and not too big, not too over the top. I felt like they're all in the same movie, and I loved that movie, and I love that world.
Great.
How did you get them to that level of, you know, performance? Because you said you were fearful. You've, you know, hadn't necessarily directed actors for quite a while.
And certainly not at
that level. We're talking Chris Hemsworth, Halle Berry, etc. What went through your mind with that? And also, how did you prepare? And did you get much rehearsal time?
Didn't have mountains rehearsal time, but had enough. And you know, rehearsal's different for everyone. You know, my mum was a theatre director, and she was always doing these bonkers like games with her actors, and like they were like speaking in like tongues. You know, I was like, well, maybe I should
basically
do some
witchcraft.
of that.
Witchcraft, running around the room.
I was like,
fun stuff.
And I felt like I didn't. I sometimes it's just about talking, you know, and the more you get to know someone, like with Chris, he, you know, people think of him as this, people think of him as being a kind of like godlike kind of, he's actually a really sensitive, thoughtful person. He's insecure like the rest of us. And
as we saw in his character this film.
Yeah. And he hadn't done anything like this before. And I kind of suspected he could. But, you know, we would talk about changing his physicality, for example, like, you know, because there's the guys who have this whole like, you know, like that confidence and they use space, but his character had to be a lot less comfortable and a lot more. And that also, we changed the register of his voice. You know, it's not Thor, it's the slightly, so if you notice, you might not notice it, but his voice is caught here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I noticed more the body language for that.
Softer, quieter kind of in control, but at the same time, he's here.
Yeah. And we listened to lots of people who'd come from trauma. And there's a website, it's called Soft White Underbelly, and it's a documentarian who's made kind of these testimonies with people from Skid Row, and they tell us, and some of them, they're breathing shallowly and they're not relaxed enough to actually project. And so we looked at a lot of that stuff. We talked about how, you know, his whole kind of attitude and posture would change. And then if he slipped out of that, which he does occasionally, then I would be like,
I'm Thor.
Yeah. I'd be like, and often I would just sort of walk over to him like that. He'd be like, yeah, I got it. I got it.
Perfect. Chris, stop it. Stop it.
Come back to this. And he loved it. And he is, I think that is one of the things people might be most surprised about. Is how flipping good he is. He's the real deal.
He's the real deal. Yeah, I've always felt that about him. Though.
Have you?
Know?
Yeah.
Thor aside, I've always seen him and stuff going, oh, that guy's really good. His brother the same. Even there's 3 of them. They're all really good. They're all solid.
Yeah.
But you go, Chris, you look at some of his work and you go, yeah, Marvel's aside, he's really solid.
He really is.
How did you get him cast? How did you cast that amazing?
It was a crazy thing, I wrote the script and I, let it go out, and there's no secrets in Hollywood. No matter how many watermarks there are and how many people say I'm not going to share it with anyone,
they share it.
It gets shared. And then I got a call saying Chris had read it and would I meet with him because he loved it. And obviously,
inadvertently found its way to him. I mean, that's not a bad leakage.
It's the Hollywood dream.
Yeah, well, I mean, you want to keep things until you're sort of ready.
Yeah.
Like if, someone, we're at the same agency. And someone,
it wasn't like someone was casting it.
No, but there's just no secrets,
Sure.
Yeah.
And so then we got on, we met and were like, oh, right, okay. He was not what I expected at all. He was so impressive and thoughtful. He's annoyingly good at everything. Like, honestly, he's like clever with story. And we just hit it off. And then it was weird, the script, I guess, had that thing that you guys identified, which was like, where are these movies been? And I want to be in that. And also there's a subtext and there's a theme, which is of value, hopefully. It gives you something to think about more than just, it's a kind of popcorn thing.
So was that
so true?
But was that the kind of thing that you? Because I mean, I think maybe when directors start out and they think about working with a big actor, they're like, okay, I've got to give them the note. And the more that I think we work as filmmakers, and the more we hear other people working at with the top actors, it's like seems to be more about having a discussion and talking about things, like talking about. I mean, it'd be interesting just to dive quickly into the theme you mentioned there, and like the background and the subtext, but like what are those conversations? Because I guess that's what builds trust with an actor at that level, is understanding that you're conversing rather than pushing.
Yeah, I think if you can have the time to talk through every scene so that you get if there are any bumps that you're going to hit on the, like where you don't want to be on the day and Chris or Halle or whoever is like, I would never do that. My character would never do that. Like you want to
in front of like 800 people.
Yeah. If you've had that conversation, and you either say, okay, maybe you're right, or you explain what you meant when you were writing it. If it's not obvious, they're like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. So you don't have that, like when the clock's ticking. But also, there was a point where I think Chris was like, you changed my hair color, you changed my eye color, you changed my posture, you changed my voice. What was it about me that made you want,
you didn't like.
Yeah. And then as we got to know each other more, and he knew that I had a very clear idea, and I showed him, like I had a map for every scene. I had a reference for it, whether it was a photograph or just a still from a movie, and then as he understood that I had a very specific plan, he was like, I am totally in. And once he's in, no questions. We were rolling. So I think, the trick is to do as much of that in advance. And then if you can do that with all of your acts, and then our rehearsals, sometimes we stood them up, and sometimes we just did it sitting down because you didn't want to spoil the kind of magic for the day,
Yeah, an incredible job. Really, Cromwell is absolutely amazing. We love
thanks, guys.
Such an amazing job. So well.
That really means a lot. And you guys are great. I love the way you have this sort of combo. Thanks, yeah, bro.
It's taken a while to develop, actually.
Yeah. We've just
taken a while.
Fun.
No, it's really relaxing.
Yeah.
Cool. That's what we like to hear. Quick 30-second thing.
Yeah, final one. Then just that advice. Maybe it's that moment of going from the doc to the feature for a lot of our filmmakers out there who are going, "How do I do that?" What for you worked?
Again, the homework. And the truth is, my producer, Darren Schlesinger, who produced Shane Meadows films and Four Lions, and American Animals. And, we were both of us going from doing movies in the, 10, 15 million mark to something which was, not 10 times that, but
up there.
Yeah. And I remember her saying to me, look, it's the same work. You've got hundreds of people and you've got big toy train set to play with. But actually, fundamentally, it's really the same work you're doing in the room with the actors. And as long as you don't let that kind of get into your head and like make you feel like it's still the same thing. And you can probably do a lot more than you think you can do, you know.
Amazing.
And hire the best actors, and then you just chill.
Let them do it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Bart Layton, thank you.
Thank you.
Mate,
No,
always
pleasure.
such a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.